Hello, it's John Heaton, and here I am with another review, and this time I'm going to review Fleetwood Mac album Tusk. And this was requested by my old friend Marcus Elvis. How you doing, Marcus? Long time no see. And I didn't need much persuasion to review this album because it's one of my all-time favourites. So it's a double album, came out in 1979. It was the follow-up to the multi-million selling Rumours album. Didn't sell nearly as many, and the critics were divided about it, but I think it's aged very well, and I think it's a pretty consistent album all the way through. One of the things I really love about Fleetwood Mac is there are three great songwriters, and on this album they work really well together. Lindsey Buckingham, Christine McVie and Stevie Nicks. I do believe that the band didn't reach this height again after this album. There were moments on the later albums, on Mirage and Tango in the Night and on Say You Will, but this was their last five-star classic album in my opinion. I think this album was brave, a brave release, and I take my hat off to generally to people who release double albums, because it's a brave thing to do. It's not the most commercial thing in the world to do. Obviously the fans have to fork out more money, and double albums generally don't sell as well as single albums. But if I think in my record collection, I think several double albums are up there in my top 20 albums of all time. For example, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road from Elton, Exile on Main Street from the Stones, Pink Floyd The Wall, another classic double. Of course we've got Songs in the Key of Life from Stevie, and of course the White Album. I mean, there's always probably a producer like George Martin in the background saying, well, it should have been a single album, and it's just, you know, quite annoying to hear that kind of comment, because I love double albums in the way you can explore your creativity more and take more risks. And I think most of the double albums I've just mentioned benefit from that. So I'm going to show you the inner sleeves. It's quite nice packaging on this album. In fact, it's kind of double packaging because there's another sleeve within the sleeve, if you see what I mean. And the other one. Nice moody picture of the band there with Stevie looking like a ghost. Kind of strange picture of the band there with Lindsey having shaved his beard off and with short hair, looking a little different from how he did on the Rumours cover. I like that picture actually. And actually the band do actually credit Lindsey Buckingham. I think they say special thanks to Lindsey Buckingham because he basically was the mastermind behind the production of this album, and he wrote, I forget, I did count them at one stage, but I think he wrote something like 10 or 11 out of the 20, and the others contributed about 5 or 6 each. So I think he was the brains behind it, but as I said at the beginning, three great songwriters combined on this album. The only other band I can think of with three great songwriters is the one from Liverpool. So I'm going to go through the tracks, and there's hardly a weak link on it. It starts beautifully with Christine's Over and Over, great ballad, love it, and they played this one live on the 1980 tour. Second track, The Ledge, a manic Lindsey Buckingham song, love it again, quite experimental, not as commercial as some of his other stuff, but a great song. Think About Me was the single from the album, and I really can't understand why it didn't get to #1, because I think it's an absolute Christine McVie gem, and I love it to bits, and I can't understand why it wasn't a bigger hit. I think it scraped into the top 20 if I remember correctly. Save Me a Place, the next track, Lindsey Buckingham on great form, nice acoustic number, and side one closes with Sara, which is Stevie Nicks' masterpiece, or one of her masterpieces. Side two, not quite as strong as side one. The first two tracks are pretty good, but not as good as the tracks on side one. That's All for Everyone. This is where the album returns to form. This is beautiful melody from Lindsey, beautiful chord changes, love it. Not that funny, another manic song from Lindsey Buckingham. Play this one loud, it's great. And then side 2 closes with Sisters of the Moon, another Stevie Nicks classic. Very atmospheric, great lyrics. Side 3. The highlights for me are Brown Eyes from Christine McVie, which I saw them do in concert in 1988. And I know I'm not wrong, the last track from Lindsey, brilliant. The other tracks, not quite so good. Side 4, the highlights for me, Beautiful Child from Stevie, Walk a Thin Line, great from Lindsey, and actually Mick Fleetwood did a version of this on his solo album from 1981, The Visitor, on which George Harrison plays a really nice guitar solo, so check that one out as well. Tusk, the title track, is brilliant, and check out the video for that. There's a hilarious video for that with a marching band, and never forget Beautiful Closer from Christine. So this album is just a joy to listen to all the way through, I think, and a couple of tracks not quite up there maybe, but this is my sheet music, and I was lucky enough to meet Christine McVie and Mick Fleetwood in a hotel in London in 1988, and I got them to sign it. I don't know if you can see that. That's Mick and Christine. And when I said to Mick, Tusk is the second best double album of all time, to which he replied, what is the best? And I said, the Beatles' White Album. And he didn't argue with me, but he didn't seem overly pleased either, but anyway. So this is Fleetwood Mac Tusk, signed by all 5 members. I didn't get this personally, unfortunately. I got this on eBay, but I'm really proud of this one. It's beautiful, and it's normally up on my wall, but I got it down to show you guys. And just a word on the other Fleetwood Mac albums from what I call the classic lineup, 1975 to 1987. They're probably all worth checking out, but these are the most important ones. The 1975 Buckingham Nicks debut with Fleetwood Mac. Say You Love Me, Landslide, at least those 2 are classics, and a few other good ones. Obviously this one, which most of you I guess are familiar with. I've possibly overplayed this one over the years, but it's still great. The live album from 1980 is a little bit of a mixed bag. I think it's fair to say Lindsey Buckingham is a little bit out of control on stage versus in the studio. I prefer him a little bit reined in the studio. Good example is Not That Funny live. He just goes a bit mental. And Tango in the Night, well, at least side 1 is good on this. Side 2 is considerably weaker, but there's some lovely songs on this one, particularly Big Love, the first single, and Everywhere. So that's worth checking out. But my favourite at the end of the day is Tusk. That was Fleetwood Mac Tusk. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment and see you next time. Cheers.